hear me? Today's lesson is about getting a better sense of our relationship with gravity. So I will invite you to lie down on your bed or on your mat and take a few moments just to arrive. Take a few moments to feel yourself on the floor and take what I like to call a body print. Just like a fingerprint or a footprint. Could you visualize a body print now? Your body print. As you lie down, which are those spaces where you can feel yourself heavier and those that are a bit lighter? Can you bring your attention to those spaces in your back where you touch the ground more? And those places that touch less? And those that don't touch at all? That place in the back of your head where you feel it resting heaviest on the floor. And then, as your attention slides down, can you feel the curvature of your neck and the space between your shoulder blades? Can you sense which shoulder blade feels heavier? Which shoulder blade seems wider on the floor? And as you go down your back with your attention, can you feel your ribs? And as you breathe now, is there a change in your contact with the ground? In those lower ribs and in your lower back? How does the lower back contact the ground? And your pelvis? Which hip seems a bit heavier? Clarifying this image of your body print as you go down your thighs now and that space behind your knees. Are your thighs heavier than your knees? Lighter? Your calves and your ankles? And can you bring your attention to your heels now? Could you detect which heel maybe feels a bit heavier? And as you slide your attention, are you only noticing those places I call out? Or are you also keeping your attention focused wider to the rest of yourself as well? Could you take a snapshot? Have a clear image of this body print so you can be able to come back to it again and again as we go through the lesson. To have an image, a sensation to compare to. Now, don't do anything just yet. Just find out what's the first thing that happens to you when I ask you to lighten your left heel. Don't do the movement. Just notice what happens when I ask you to lighten your left heel. Do you turn your attention from wherever it was to that heel? So could you without moving your body. Just play a bit with the movement of your attention. Can you pay attention to your right hand? What if I told you to lift your right hand? Don't do anything. Just notice that first moment where you suddenly turn your attention from your foot to your hand as I call it out. And then your left shoulder. And find that first movement within yourself, which is the movement of your attention. Your right hip. Your left heel again. Are you totally absorbed into focusing on that one specific point? Are you keeping part of your attention on the rest of yourself as you hone into that specific place? Could you simultaneously keep your attention to your body print and to the rest of yourself as well now? As you think of your left heel and your right wrist, your left shoulder blade, your right hip. Can you find a way to jump around with your attention in all of those places, but still keep another part of your attention throughout the body, and feel what changes that happen to the rest of the body when your attention shifts from place to place? And let's find out now this space in time between intention and action. So can you think now again of lightening your left heel, only your left heel, and not lifting, just lightening off the ground. And as your heel begins to lighten, what happens? Can you feel those first moments when your muscles begin to engage somewhere in your lower leg? Can you feel what happens to the rest of yourself? Can you keep a wide focus as you gently begin to lighten your left heel and then allow it to release back down? And it's a very small micro movement of lightening up and letting go. What is it that you notice in your lower leg? Could you think now of noticing two things at the same time? Those places in your lower leg where you can feel the muscles engaging in order to lighten your heel. And at the same time, can you pay attention and see if there are some places in your leg where you become heavier? Maybe the back of your knee. And then, can you play with your attention? And for a few moves, feel those places clearly. Feel where you engage your muscles. In your calf, around your knee. And for a few more movements, just notice the weight shifting in your structure, your bones. Sense all those places where you feel getting heavier in your lower leg as you lighten your left heel. And then, could you think of pressing the back of your knee very gently into the floor, as softly and quietly as you were lightening your heel. So feel now, how would you go about making the back of your knee a bit heavier? And could you find this idea of a seesaw between those two joints, your ankle and your knee? So as your knee gets heavier, your heel gets lighter. And as your heel comes bearing into the ground, your knee gets lighter. Could you examine this movement, and how are you doing it? Are you thinking of pressing? So you press into the heel to lighten the knee, and then you press into the knee to lighten the heel. Or do you seesaw by lightening? So you lighten the heel in order to make the knee heavier, and then you lighten the knee to make the heel heavier. There are so many different ways to do this little micro movement. And go ahead and explore just as much as you feel like. And then let it go and have a rest for your attention. Now, we will keep this idea of paying attention to the muscles as they engage, and simultaneously to the shifting of the weight in your structure, and feel it in progressively bigger movements. And we will stay with this idea of keeping part of your attention to where the movement is being done, and part of your attention to the whole of yourself at the same time. So this time, could you think of beginning to lighten the whole of the left leg, as if you were going to lighten the thigh and the calf and the heel all at the same time? The whole of the leg wants to get off the ground. But again, you're exploring the beginning of the movement, the moment you turn your attention. Can you keep a bit of your attention to the rest of yourself, so you can feel the lightening of the leg, the engagement throughout the muscles, the place that gets heavier in your trunk as you do this movement, lifting the whole leg, keeping the knee straight. Can you feel the places in your trunk where you get heavier in order to lighten, not lift, lighten the left leg? Could you use your exhale now, and for a few moves, press into those spaces that are already getting heavier? So you use your exhale to press down with the rest of your body, allowing your left leg to become lighter. Don't lift keep your contact with the ground. Only lighten. Only make the beginning of the movement. Can you keep your attention wide so you can feel the whole of the body print that is changing a bit now? Those places that get lighter and those places that get heavier as you attempt to lighten your left leg. And again, let that go. Have a rest. What we want to explore is what happens to the rest of ourselves as we move a particular limb. The hidden, dark side of the movement. When we move, our attention usually goes to that place that moves, that changes. But the rest of the body changes too, in order to arrange itself to support the movement. This lesson is about those dark places, those places we do not usually pay attention to when we do a movement. The rest of ourselves. So let's try it on the other side. And you begin to lighten the whole of the right leg this time. As you exhale, you think of lightening your right leg and feel, where does the weight go? Where does it shift throughout your body? And don't lift only your heel. It's the whole of the leg now that tries to gently lighten. And you feel what changes in your pelvis and the contact of your ribs on the floor. Maybe something changed in your shoulder blades. And as you inquire now and find out which are those places in the trunk that get heavier in order for you to lighten your right leg, could you press a bit more? So the action stops being lightening the leg and it becomes using your exhale to press into those spaces that become heavier. Just to press them a bit more into the ground. Allowing your body print, your contact with the ground to change. How is this side compared to when we were lifting the other leg? Do you feel a better connection from your ribs to your leg on this side? Do you have a preference? Does one side feel more familiar? Just let it go and have a rest. Having to pay attention is already hard enough. Having to split your attention between a specific place and the whole of yourself is quite the task. So have a breath, lying and resting. Could you allow your arms now to open to the side? Could you think with your next exhale to lighten your left arm? The whole of the arm, not just the wrist or the elbow. As if you were going to lift your arm, but you do it only as far as you can keep your contact with the ground. Just for a few breaths, you lighten and release. And as you do this movement, pay attention to what happens to the rest of yourself, to the weight in your ribs and in your shoulder blades, to the changing shape of your body print. What happens to the side of your neck, to the back of your head? Make it really, really small now. Find the beginning of the movement. Use your exhalation. Find all those places that get heavier in your trunk, and with your exhale, sink them a bit more actively into the ground. Finding out how your trunk can actively help you. Finding the connection from your ribs to your left arm. Feeling your changing shape. And then, for a few breaths, could you do the same thing with your right arm? To gently find the beginning of the movement. The muscles that begin to engage. Just enough so you can feel it. Lightening, not lifting. Without losing the contact with the ground. And as you do this movement, can you pay attention to the places in the center of yourself? Your trunk. How does your contact with the ground change it? Keeping your attention in those places that get heavier in order for your arm to become lighter. Could you use your exhale to gently press down a bit more actively into the places that begin to get heavier? How is this connection? This side? This body print? Do you have a preference? Is lifting one arm more familiar? And let it go. Have a breath. Have a rest. And with your next exhale now, can you think of lightening both arms? So you use your exhale to think of lightening both arms and feel the changing shape of your trunk, the changing contact with the ground. And And in those places that get heavier, you use your exhale to press into them a bit more. Slowly and easily. A micro movement. So you can still track this changing shape of your body print. Just as you would look at the cloud on a sunny, windless day. You look at the cloud and you think it's not moving. But if you continue to look a bit longer, you see that it's actually shifting and changing its shape very slowly. Could you make your movement just as slow now, so that you keep your attention in your trunk and sense all those slow and delicate changes in the weight distribution of your body print? The shifting of the weight, the changing of the shape, just as the cloud shifts, exploring the connection between your trunk and your arms. And maybe you want to have a rest for your attention. Or maybe you want to continue and see what happens if you make your arms a bit heavier and find the other side of the connection. What if you press gently the whole of the arm as you exhale and feel what happens to your body print when you make your limbs a bit heavier? Let it go. Have a rest for your attention. Now, let's play around a bit more. Let's improvise. So as you come again to this gentle lightening and pressing into the ground, could you go about doing it freely, as if you were dancing? So you begin to gently press and lighten through your limbs and through your trunk. And you can find your own rhythm now. Lightening one leg, and then one arm, and then the other leg. Pressing down one arm, the other arm, your trunk. Finding the flow of movement as if you were swimming. And as you do, can you pay attention throughout the body? Can you visualize the body print that is shifting, changing as you slide your weight? Could you find those movements that feel most familiar as a rhythm or as a sequence? Are you following your sensations? Are you going only where it feels easy to go? Can you think? How would you go about doing something non-familiar? How would you experiment with something less familiar to your body? you remember that first body print? The one we made when you first lied down. Could you conjure up this image now and compare it with the body print you feel on the floor right now? Once again, can you begin to shift your weight using your breath to lighten, to get heavier? And as you press into the floor, it's not a struggle, and it's not a battle. It's a dance, a tango. Can you partner up with the floor to feel your ribs, to feel your spine clearly? Shifting the weight around in micro moves. Just for a few more breaths, could you make up your own last move? Can you feel all those parts in yourself, all those places resting on the floor? And just for a few more moves, can you follow your body? Follow along the sensation. Where does your body want to go now? And for some, it will be to rest. And for some, it will be to move and explore. Find out what makes sense, bodily sense, and finish up this lesson with your own movement. And when you've finished exploring and experimenting, you can have a breath and you can rest.